All right, welcome in everybody to the Go 24/7 podcast. I am Glenn West, your senior writer here at the site. LSU is locking in on Sam Leavitt as its 2026 quarterback. The Tigers are expected to sign the number one quarterback, the number one transfer portal player in this cycle. A huge coup for Lane Kiffin and this offensive staff here in year one in Baton Rouge, but it was a long, winding road to get here. We're going to break it all down for you and kind of how all this came to pass and how LSU finally got their quarterback here for 2026. So before we get into all that, would like to ask you guys if you're following along on YouTube, please give us a like and a subscription over there. Leave us some comments. It always helps us out in the algorithms on YouTube. And then if you're listening on Spotify or on Apple, please always give us a like and a subscription over there as well. Always helps us out. So with all that being said, LSU locking in here on Sam Leavitt. This is going to be their big swing at quarterback. This is a deal that really, if you think about just kind of where LSU started when Lane Kiffin first got the job, this was a quarterback that you heard very, very, very early in this process. A guy really going back to the middle of December. I remember sitting here almost in this exact spot doing research when the Sam Leavitt news came out that he would potentially be leaving Arizona State to enter the transfer portal. And immediately there were lots of sirens and lots of sounds and bells and whistles pointing towards LSU being a potential destination for him. The Tigers have always really liked Sam Leavitt's game from a new offensive staff perspective. Lane Kiffin, Charlie Weiss, all those guys that are coming here from Oxford. They've been really entranced by what the potential fit of Leavitt in this system could look like. And I think from an LSU perspective, this just makes all the sense in the world. I think this is as ideal a fit as you could possibly kind of conjure up for the Tigers here in year one. And so, I guess we can start here by just talking a little bit about the player, talking a little bit about what LSU is going to be getting in Sam Leavitt, and why he is an ideal fit to kind of maybe run this offense here early in the Lane Kiffin era. This is a guy going back to 2024 now. He's been a multi-year starter at Arizona State, certainly led the Sun Devils to one of their great seasons in program history a couple of years back in 2024. In that season, he completed 62% of his passes, threw for 24 touchdowns, ran for an additional 450 and 5 touchdowns. He was really electric and one of the more breakout players in the country to help Arizona State, compete and get into that college football playoff picture. This past season was a little bit different. He started, I believe, 6 or 7 games for Arizona State this year, but he, dealt with a Lisfranc injury, and we'll get into more of that here in a little bit and why that's significant. But he only appeared in 6 or 7 games, threw for about 1,600 yards, 60% completion percentage, 10 touchdowns, did run for 306 yards and another 5 touchdowns. So, if you just kind of extrapolate out, he was on pace to run for more yards than he did his first year as a starter at Arizona State. But those numbers and those stats just tell a little bit of the picture here, just about the fit. I think from when you're looking at a Lane Kiffin offense, the number one thing you want to have is a quarterback that can both use his legs and his arm, and that is something that Sam Leavitt, I should say, has done really, really well over his career, proven to be a dual threat option in his career, and somebody that I think fits this system really, really well. You look at some of the past success that LSU's had, or that this current offensive staff has had with players of that mold. Going back to Jackson Dart for a number of years, was a starter at Ole Miss, led some really great Rebel offenses during his time, and then this last year with Trinidad Chambliss. A little bit of a different path there to get Chambliss into when he was a starter, to get him into a starting role. But you saw the mobility, you saw the passing, you saw the potential there of what an offense looks like. And certainly, Chambliss taking over there for an injured Austin Simmons kind of helped catapult Ole Miss, I think, to another level as he proved to be one of the best quarterbacks, not only in the SEC but the entire country. By the time that this was all said and done, the 20 and Ole Miss's season came to an end just about a week ago now. So. This is a really interesting addition, I think, for LSU. It was one that they needed to get over the finish line because they had gone through. I mentioned that winding road. That it took a little bit of time for LSU to get this one done, and it wasn't always clean. It wasn't always perfect. But they're able to get this quarterback in that's one of the best in all of college football when healthy, and I think the expectation is that he returns later this fall and is able to really fit into this system well and kind of get this offense rolling right from the get-go. And that's why I think you saw so much early interest here from LSU when Sam Leavitt first entered the transfer portal. So I think the first thing here that we should probably mention is the injury, because I think that is, if you're looking at Sam Leavitt, the player, at least in 2026, short term, that could be the only thing that really kind of hinders kind of the offseason plans and the offseason growth that you're hoping to see for this offense. He suffered that Liz Frank injury in September, October range. Did initially tried to play through it, played, I think, a couple of games for Arizona State, but ultimately had to shut it down, had to get surgery. I believe that surgery was in November. And so he's, was looking at a, 5 to 6 month kind of timetable in terms of a return from that injury, which would take him pretty much through all of spring ball and maybe even a little bit into the summer for Levitt as he tries to rehab that thing and rehab that injury. It's very difficult injury to return from, just because it's one of those things that is very slow healing, and you don't know what the how quickly a player can return from an injury in the middle of his foot. So that's going to be something that LSU obviously had to monitor and had to weigh, and I think it was also why you saw LSU from at least a quarterback perspective attack a number of different guys over the last couple weeks. I mean, it started certainly with Levit, and just the potential there with him was apparent right from the start. But LSU kicked the tires on a lot of different guys. And Brendan Sorsby from Texas Tech was the very first guy LSU brought in for a visit on opening weekend. They kicked the tires certainly on Damon Williams, the quarterback from Washington, who actually entered the transfer portal while Levitt was on his visit. And we'll get into a little bit more of that a little bit later too. Here recently, they brought in Husan Longstreet, the freshman from USC, who redshirted this last year, and he was on campus this past weekend, and fits a very similar mold in terms of the kind of quarterback that Lane Kiffin and this offense want as we go forward here at LSU. So, there were a number of different guys that they considered, but Levitt was always the one. And really, when he started his visit, I guess this is almost a week ago now. Yeah, he was on campus Monday and Tuesday of last week. That visit went really, really well for the most part, from what we understand. Kind of leading into that Tuesday night game, where it was actually one of the videos that I took was Levitt sitting courtside with Lane Kiffin, with Whit Weeks, with a couple other signees from the wide receiver room that LSU has since announced, and it was around that time where rumors started to fly that Damon Williams, the Washington quarterback, was going to be entering the transfer portal, and that LSU was going to have serious interest in Damon Williams. And that visit with Levitt quickly ended after that news broke. I mean, it was always going to end that Tuesday night anyway, but it definitely ended that night. He ended up visiting Tennessee, ended up visiting Miami this past weekend. And in between those two visits is where I think LSU really kind of got themselves back into the picture here to land Sam Leavitt. Lane Kiffin posted the picture, of course, by now, that could very well live in infamy here in Baton Rouge for a little bit. Flying over to Knoxville, took the picture in the Knoxville airport. reportedly met with Sam Leavitt. We've been able to confirm that as well, but I think it was initially reported by Matt Moscona over at LouisianaSports.net. But LSU, Lane Kiffin, realized, once Damon Williams went back back to Washington, announced that he would be staying with the Huskies, that LSU needed to quickly get back on Sam Leavitt's good side and really make that final push to get him on board. They fly out to Knoxville to kind of talk to him and tell him how much he's how great of a fit he's going to be in Baton Rouge and all that stuff. And he ends up taking his Miami visit anyway. But I think it was really important for Kiffin to at least go out there and make that push and make that commitment, make that meeting happen with Sam Leavitt, and that Sam Leavitt was open to that meeting. I think was also really important too. So Levitt goes on his visit to Miami. It's a pretty good visit from what we understand, from what the Miami site reports, but he ultimately leaves without committing to Miami, and he goes back to Arizona to really think things over. As we currently sit here today on Monday, there's a 3-day recruiting dead period to where prospects are not allowed to visit campuses, and coaches are not allowed to have in-person contact with prospects. So that part is important to know, that it was just LSU. Sam Leavitt was just going home to think about his decision and what he wanted, and LSU did enough in that meeting with Kiffin that has since done enough to earn that commitment. And now we just wait on LSU to officially announce that he has signed with the Tigers. So this was always the blueprint guy, right? I mean, this was the guy that I think if you drew him up and said, hey, this is the guy this is the type of quarterback that we want leading LSU in 2026. There really weren't many quarterbacks that were realistic targets that were going to be a much better fit than Sam Leavitt. The Trinidad Chambliss stuff, I think, certainly would have been an ideal fit. LSU certainly would have had interest in Chambliss had he entered the transfer portal or gotten his waiver, but none of those things happened. Chambliss has decided to stay at Ole Miss and is now fighting the opportunity to get to play in 2026 with the Rebels. And so in terms of the realistic opportunities that LSU had in front of them, Sam Leavitt was definitely, 1A. He was the guy. And I think, there were some initial concerns here with this injury, but those concerns they have to be outweighed by the positives of bringing a guy like this into the program. This is a guy who could potentially not only be your quarterback in 2026, but also potentially 2027. And I think that angle is important to know too, because it's been a common theme for LSU here over the last couple of weeks. They've been bringing in and signing guys that have multiple years of eligibility, and they want, I think, to start to build a little bit of a foundation here. This is always going to be, I think, in the Kiffin game plan to attack the transfer portal heavy. He's had a lot of success doing it, a lot of success evaluating the players to do it. But I think there's also an understanding here that we want to have some continuity on offense going forward here, and getting a bunch of guys that have multiple years of eligibility, give LSU that opportunity. And what I'm going to be very curious to see happen here is when Levit is announced that he can return to action, that he can return to full football activities. When exactly that will be, you would imagine it happens somewhere in the summer. Maybe if LSU's really lucky and Levitt's really lucky, that they get maybe towards the end of spring and he's able to be cleared for some kind of throwing or whatever to start to try to build some chemistry and some camaraderie with his receivers. So there's it's just an unfirm timetable right now with how that injury is and how how wide ranging the return could be. But all expectations and all hopes are that when LSU gets ready for fall camp later this year, that is the guy that's going to be ready to take over. And it's going to have to be a quick rebuild. It's going to have to be a quick indoctrination into the system. You can study the playbook, you can know the offense like the back of your hand, but until you kind of get into the rhythm of getting those reps, getting the language down, getting the chemistry down with your offensive line and your receivers and your running backs and your tight ends, that stuff is all things that Sam Leavitt could be missing a portion of this offseason being able to do. So it's going to be really important whenever that time comes that he is ready and that LSU is ready to really hit the ground running with with all these players that they brought in. And then another thing that was brought up to me that I think makes a lot of sense is this is not the first time that he's had to do something like this. When he went, this was initially a Michigan State prospect. I believe he signed with Michigan State out of college, was there for 1 year, transferred to Arizona State. That year that he transferred to Arizona State was 2024, and they had a really, really good season that year, and he was able to quickly adapt to that offensive system in Arizona State. So the hope is that he can do something similar here now in Baton Rouge to really kind of get this thing off, without a hitch or without too many hitches in 2026. So really like this pickup for LSU. This is the biggest portal addition LSU could have possibly made. He's the number one player on 24/7 Sports, number one player in the portal right now. And so for LSU to get that over the finish line is just absolutely massive for them. I think it builds on a quarterback room that now is starting to fill out a little bit. LSU here in the last 24 hours, they also landed Elon quarterback Landon Clark last night, or I should say Sunday night. He's another dual threat guy who has the ability to run and pass. And I think probably has a little bit of experience under his belt as well. And so, that is probably a player that you bring in to develop in your system, see what he has, but probably not a guy that you're looking at here, at least early in the season, as a viable starting option, which is why swinging for the fences for a guy like Levit was so important. But on the flip side of that too, LSU will be bringing in Clark and probably another quarterback to kind of fill out that room. Levit signing on is actually something that could help a couple of these other backup quarterbacks or guys that are going to be competing for the backup spot here in the spring, because Levit is, by all accounts, not going to be participating in spring. And so guys like Landon Clark or whoever this other quarterback is that LSU will bring in, they'll have opportunity here in the spring and into the summer to build chemistry with the receivers and be viable options for LSU in 2026. So how all that plays out over the next several weeks and months will be very interesting to watch. But the big thing here and the big news piece here is that LSU has their quarterback. They have their guy that they really want to lean into here. Hopefully not just for 2026, but potentially longer. It allows them to start building up the room behind these guys, behind Sam Leavitt, and gives Lane Kiffin the prototype kind of quarterback that he's had success with here in recent years. So LSU, I think, is, with that addition now, has got them up into that 25, 26 range in terms of portal commitments. They also added Winston Watkins, the wide receiver from Ole Miss, a true freshman from Ole Miss on Sunday as well. They've started the process of adding offensive linemen. They've got a couple of SEC offensive linemen. Darren Stray from Kentucky is going to be following Eric Wolford, the offensive line coach down from Kentucky. That's the most recent offensive line addition. William Satterwhite is a backup O lineman from Tennessee, but he has multiple years of experience. So I think the big thing here now, you have Leavitt. You certainly want to see that rehab attacked well. You want to see LSU continue to figure out ways in which they can expedite that process while also getting him, familiar with the system to where he can hit this thing head on whenever he is cleared to return. But you also want to continue to round out this roster around him, and they've done a really nice job of that at wide receiver. I still think they probably need another impact running back or two. We reported here at CBS and 24/7 that LSU met with Caden Durham over the weekend. Maybe that's still a possibility to bring him back to the program as a running back for LSU next year. I still think they need one or two more pieces in that room. And then you look at wide receiver. They've added nine guys at wide receiver here over the first couple weeks. It's been the most heavy hit position group that you've had in terms of departures, but it's also been the one that you've really attacked well in the transfer portal and been able to rebuild very, very quickly with a lot of interesting, versatile pieces, a lot of length, a lot of size, a lot of speed, a lot of guys that can average a lot of yards per catch. So wide receivers looking pretty good right now. You look at the tight end position, and you've got Trey Green, who's just announced that the program's just announced that he's returning alongside running back Harlan Berry and the center Braylon Moore. So a lot of these pieces now are starting to fit together for LSU from an offensive perspective, but none bigger than getting Sam Leavitt here and having your quarterback for the future locked and loaded. And now it's just about getting him healthy, getting him out there with his as many reps as he possibly can with his new teammates before the fall. But LSU has an explosive quarterback. They have some explosive weapons. They have, the biggest thing here is getting the offensive line figured out and sorted over the course of the next 6-7 months. And from there, it's game day, it's game ball, and we're ready for that. We're ready for all the pieces, all the movement that's sure to come here in the weeks and months ahead. But thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for following along. We'll have much more on Sam Leavitt throughout the course of the offseason. Certainly, when you gear up for spring ball, we'll have updates for you, and then certainly as LSU continues to build out the rest of their roster, we'll have everything up on the site and our reactions and analysis to everything that's going on as well. So thank you guys again. We'll get out of here with that, but thank you so much for watching and listening to the Go 24/7 podcast.